not on a racetrack, but actually in the office where all the videos are made. We had a season of Porsche Supercup, and this is something which has always been on the list, but is now finished, and it's time to do a recap. How did we end up here? Even more important, how was my experience? So like I said, here we are. This was my third year in a Porsche Cup car, and for one reason it's always been Supercup was this dot on the horizon. Supercup is the thing you have to do. You race in Monaco, you race on Formula 1 tracks. This is something you want to be part of. And after 2 years in the German Carrera Cup, this year I had the chance, together with Huber Racing, to include the Supercup in the calendar. And it was a tough one. Including the German series, this meant 16 race weekends. So a lot of time from home, but we made it, and now we're here to do the recap. So, how did it start? As any season in a Porsche Cup, we have a pre-season test. In our case this time, it was Imola, a track in Italy where I've never been before, but it was something on the bucket list, which I should say in a sim always suited me, or was something I really liked to drive. So early in the year I was really happy to go to Imola, experience the track for the first time, and my God, what a track. We made jokes that we needed flight tickets to be able to be faster on this place. The amount of curb stones we take with the car, it was crazy to drive. You can't imagine how good these cars are over curb stones, and on a place like Imola, it really shows itself. We were on the edge of the top 10 on both of the days, which, let's be fair, was not the full goal at this time. I would love to be a bit more further up, but we definitely had our work cut out. It was also one of the first tests I did with the Huber Racing team, so we had some different philosophies and setup of what I've been used to before, but in the end we knew roughly where we were. We had 2 good test days, and it was on to the first race, which was also in Imola, but just a bit later. First race of the season, as just said, Imola. P7 in the race, so a really good weekend. Pre-practice we were P10, and then qualifying P8, race P7. Kind of a lot of nerves, I didn't expect it, but then driving that place for the first time on Saturday, a lot of crowd, Italian Tifosi was there for Formula 1. The whole track just felt different to what we had in testing. But the car was good, we knew where to work on, and then it gave us confidence into the qualifying, where in the end I had 1 good lap and put it on P8, which at the time really made me happy. Then on race day, they already predicted some rain, but it was not coming down. And I remember driving to the grid and looking up and thinking, this sky is dark. This is gonna be a strange race with drops coming down. And actually, while we already had our warm-up lap, we were stationary on the grid for the 5-minute sign, and all of a sudden, complete downpour. So all the teams, extra time, swapped the rain tires, and all of a sudden it becomes a different game, and actually a safety car start in this case as well. That's how many water there was on track. So made my way up to 5th in the first lap before being a bit too optimistic on the second to last corner on the downhill. Back to P9, in the end back to P7 in the race, but as said, P7. But left really happy. We had pace in the rain, we had pace in the dry, and at this point it was okay. We belong here in the top 10. This feels good. So, as said, first race, P7, mixed conditions, good points. Second race, Monaco. If there is any track, I guess, on any driver's bucket list, it's Monaco. You can't test, you get there between the walls, and it's a very special feeling. I obviously did plenty of sim laps over the years already, so I knew what was coming, but then being in Monaco, it's just a different vibe. Everything is more narrow. The feeling of driving a racing car, which is on the edge of oversteer between the walls, is something you can't predict, you can't plan for it, you just have to experience it. So we went into free practice with the idea, we need to be quick in qualifying, not in the first laps in free practice. But it took 5-6 laps before there was some sort of rhythm going. Obviously in the high-speed corners like the swimming pool, you're still quite far off, but the base feeling was coming. And the main thing which was on my mind, especially after the session, was, hey, I don't care what position I'm in, I just drove Monaco, and this is something special. Then obviously Racing Heart comes up, qualifying, you try to get a bit more, and it was red flag mania again, as always. In the last lap, green sector 1, green sector 2, someone in the way in swimming pool, P10. Then into the race, the start was good, but there was some contact into the slowest hairpin in the first lap, where I actually got just pushed wide. The rear wheels of the car were literally off the floor. Lost the position there to P11, and then from there on it was just typical Monaco fashion. You drive it home. Overtaking is not really possible unless something happens, which there wasn't. So P11 on Monaco debut. Driving Monaco is a bucket list, regardless of the position. And then we went on to the next one. Third race of the season, we ended up in Silverstone. We had a test day where as a team we really struggled with car balance, so we were all a bit nervous what was going to happen in Silverstone. And one of the things which made my weekend even more difficult was that I was doing a double duty with my Formula 1 sim work at Red Bull, which was half an hour from the track, and actually driving a Supercup myself. So I was swapping back and forward between two completely different things, virtual to real, but also Formula car to GT. And up front I thought, I have this. But then I drove onto the track in free practice and then, wow, this was tough. I really struggled in free practice, and out of the top of my head I was P18 or 19, and the feeling with the car was just not there. I knew at the time we had some experimental setup on the car to fix the problems we had with testing, but everything just didn't align. It didn't feel connected front to rear, and afterwards, looking back at it, it was just the combination that my head was still driving a Formula car, and then you jump into a Porsche, which obviously is so far apart. I just made my life really difficult with the mindset there. And my weekend here was simply said saved by the fact that in qualifying the rain came down when we went out on slicks. Because of my bad free practice, it was not that I had a good track position, I didn't. But the lap that mattered when the rain was coming down was good, and we ended up P4, and then it rained even harder. So from a really bad free practice, I ended up starting 4th on the race, where then in the beginning the problem showed again. We were struggling, and after a long and hard fight, I ended up in P8, which then at the time was again a top 10 finish. So looking back at it, with all things considered, it was good, but in the race pace we were definitely off early on. But sometimes you need to have the luck and just look at the points and take it. So round 4 of the year, Red Bull Ring, a track which was really familiar because we also raced here with the Carrera Cup. We had test days, we know it inside out. But because of this, we also knew this is going to be a close one. Normally the gaps are really small. In the end, the track is 7 corners. And what we always see here in quali comes down to 1 lap in the end with a slipstream, and then you're good. I made a mistake in quali, and I think I started P19, so absolutely terrible. And at this moment I also knew this one is going to be tough. Like, you can overtake at Red Bull Ring, yes, but also with the level of competition in Supercup, it's not so easy. So in the end, in the race, a lot of things happened. A few cars in front made contact, which gave me 3 positions, overtook a few and ended up P12. There was more on the table here, not by things influenced from the outside, but just by me not driving good. When you think Red Bull Ring was difficult, we got to France, Paul Ricard. So we went to France for the race, and I was already a bit anxious, like, is this gonna work? And then, well, free practice qualifying, it showed it didn't work. It didn't come together in quali. The lap was not good. We took a little bit of a gamble in the quali with the setup to, let's say, get it to work, which didn't. And I think out of the top of my head, I started P19. In the race, we got P18. First no point score of the year, and happy to leave. It was not my weekend, and we tend to say sometimes you have these weekends. Well, this was definitely one of them, and not a good weekend. On to the next one. After Paul Ricard, we got to better tracks. Spa-Francorchamps, which any driver on the calendar would say, okay, this is not a problem to actually go here. Free practice, kind of the same as the Silverstone qualifying. Rain came down after the first 2 laps. Did my thing, boxed because there was too much rain and we were on slicks. So more rain came down, really P1 in free practice. Obviously knowing that when it will be full dry, this was probably not going to happen because it's not one of my strongest tracks performance-wise. P1 in the Supercup session, you have to take it when you get it. Qualifying, out on track. Set 1 I really struggled, car not connected front to rear. Setup changes for the second set, ended up P10. I actually had a mediocre start and got 3 wide into T1. And then someone on the inside made a judgment error, put it on the rear bumper and actually spun me. And then it was P30 back to P19, but you get points to P15, so yes, no points. Then round 7, the season highlight after Monaco. Actually, I should rank this one higher because the Zandvoort GP for a Dutch driver is for me the most surrealistic thing I've ever experienced. So many people, so many fans, so many enthusiastic fans, I should say. It was like a festival with a race next to it. And obviously as a Dutch one, you want to score high. So we went into free practice with confidence. Normally it's a good track for me, Zandvoort. So I think I ended up P6 or P7, but we were the first one not to use any Joker tires, so we were really confident in the free practice. P13 in quali, really angry and disappointed afterwards, partly down to us. Should have performed on the first set when the track was quickest and the track was clear. And as a Dutch guy, this moment you stand there, P13, you have high expectations, you already know, like, yeah, this dream about a podium at the home GP is out of the window. So mindset changed for the race. And then with a good start, I got to P9, I think, in the first lap. But then the splitter broke off. There was a contact in front of the field around P3-4 where actually the whole front of a car got ripped off and even the aluminium support parts for the front came off. And there was cars going everywhere out of T1 and I was in the middle and I hit one of the parts, which then made the splitter break off. So I could block the most of the guys behind me for most of the race, but there was just one moment on the brakes where I couldn't defend it because the overspeed was too big. And when the splitter is off, you have less pressure on the front for braking, so you miss a bit of performance. And obviously in the high speed, the car doesn't turn as much. So I needed to manage it. So P10 at the home Grand Prix. So last race in Monza. Double duty again for me. I did it in Silverstone, but now I did it with Monza and the Red Bull factory Milton Keynes, which meant I missed free practice. We had P17 in quali, but then a red flag on this first tire set meant we only had 2 real push laps, and then what can you expect up to a certain point? If you look on the results page, I was 0.3 off P9, but with the field being so competitive, it was P17. So yeah, this was one of these weekends where you knew if we would score any points, it would be good. But in the race we come forward a little. But P15, there was some argy-bargy going on in lap 3 or 4, which I had the wrong end of the stick, and then we got stuck in a train. And came across the finish, and this is not me, but actually got some sort of emotional on the in-lap when I thought about it, like, hey, the Supercup season's over. At this time of the year, my new job at Red Bull as one of the simulator test and development drivers was announced. And because of this, I know that this was my, for now, last year in Supercup. Because next year there's different priorities. Formula 1 clashes with Supercup. I need to be at Milton Keynes. Well, fill it in yourself. So had a good thought. At this time I didn't know I was P12 in the championship after all, but I think it was one of the bucket list things. Did I have expectations early on to get into the top 10? Yes. Were those possible? Yes, without the Spa. If you would have had 4 or 5 points in Spa, which is normal from a P10 start, we would have been P7 or P8 in the championship. But I'm really happy and thankful to Huber Racing for making this possible, and obviously also all the other partners who took part in this. Not stopping with racing, just the Supercup in this case is a difficult story in the coming years, but happy to have done it, happy to tick the boxes like the Monaco race, to experience the Dutch GP from a driving side, and now onwards and upwards, new goals. And as said, thank you to you guys for watching, and there will be a Carrera Cup review as well, but that will be a later video because at the time of recording we've not actually had the last race yet, so I'll be back, you'll see me online, and as said, thank you.